Hi, this is Timothy Zahn, author of Thrawn, and you're listening to Star Wars Reactions. Good for you.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
In 1977, George Lucas formed a legacy.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
Inspired by mythology, his saga has become a passion for many.
Feel the Force around you.
His legend has become our story.
It's true. All of it.
One of resistance,
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
rebellion,
Rebellion is built on hope.
and redemption.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
This is Star Wars Reactions.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Star Wars Reactions. This has been an episode I have been waiting to record. We're so excited that you're joining us for this episode. My name is Aaron Harris, and joining me is the 3PO to my R2. He is the David Motters. David, brother, how's it going?
Oh man, it is going just like you said. I've been looking forward to recording this with you, looking forward to reacting. I am ready to react, and just super excited for this one.
Absolutely, it is so much fun. I'm so excited for this. So we are going to get everything going here. But before we jump into our topic for this episode, which I'm sure you all know what it is, but we do want to take a quick moment here because this week we received the shocking news, as the whole world did, that actor Ray Stevenson had tragically passed away. Ray Stevenson, of course, has been a very popular actor. He's been in a lot of things, from the Thor movies from Marvel, Three Musketeers. He was in a whole bunch of fabulous movies. He was actually in one of my favorite non-Star Wars movies, King Arthur, as well. But he is also in the upcoming Ahsoka series playing Balin Skull. So it was tragic to hear of his passing at the age of 58 this week. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to his friends and family, because it's always hard to lose somebody, even more when it's unexpected. So we do want to send our thoughts and prayers out to his friends and family. And it just makes, honestly, a tragedy like this is just going to make Ahsoka, which, everybody's so looking forward to, it's just going to make it even so much more bittersweet for us, because it'll be one of his last roles that has been completed. So,
Yeah. And you know what, buddy? This is what we're recording this in May, and I just, you and I both, we were just watching him on the live stream, the Star Wars Celebration live stage, the live stream, just seeing him up there on stage, talking with all the Star Wars fans around him. And it was just so cool. And it was neat to hear him talk. Of course, he did the voice for Gar Saxon in Clone Wars, and loved hearing him as that bad guy. And of course, I'm, like you said, buddy, Ahsoka, I'm really looking forward to seeing his character. But boy, oh boy, not used to seeing this in your 50s. But like you said, I was reading a little bit about him. His wife, three sons, like you said, praying for the family and his friends and stuff like that. So just not fun.
No, it's not. So if you have a moment this week, just take a moment, just say a little prayer, send some well wishes, happy thoughts to their family as they walk through this unexpected tragedy. So our best to the Stevenson family. So with that unpleasantness out of the way, we want to get started with what is something we started talking about. We started talking about this, about a month and a half ago, David?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've been pumped about this.
It's something that just kind of, I was looking at the calendar and it just kind of was like, you know what? We could do this. This would work. And it's a once in a lifetime thing where we have this opportunity. So we took advantage of it, and we're sitting here and we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. And that is our topic for this week's episode, the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. We are discussing the third movie of the original trilogy, what originally everybody thought was going to be the final Star Wars movie, what was going to be all of it, but then we ended up getting so much more awesomeness. But we're going to discuss Return of the Jedi today. And it's going to be a blast. I've been looking forward to this. Of course, you are listening to this. We are releasing this episode on May 25th, 2023, which is exactly the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, which was released May 25th, 1983. This movie was written by, of course, the maker George Lucas, as well as Lawrence Kasdan, and directed by Richard Marquand. And to clarify, George Lucas wrote the story. Kasdan and Lucas wrote the screenplay together. So if you have not seen this movie, you're going to get spoilers. If you have not seen this movie and it's been out since 83, it's 40 years old, I suggest you hit pause, go watch it real quick, because the spoilers start now. So basic synopsis of Return of the Jedi, if you have not seen it. After rescuing Han Solo from the clutches of the evil gangsta Jabba the Hutt, the rebellion launched an attack led by Lando Calrissian and Admiral Akbar on the new edition of the Death Star, which is still currently under construction. Meanwhile, Han Solo and Leia, Princess Leia, are leading a band of rebels on the forest moon of Endor to take out the new Death Star's protective shield generator. Meanwhile, Luke Skywalker faces the Emperor and Darth Vader in an attempt to turn Vader back to the light side of the Force.
Whew. That was a good summary. I mean, there's a lot there, but you really summarized it well, buddy.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a movie that, you know, I really enjoy this movie. It was, when looking at the original trilogy, it was, you know, I'll stand by this for as long as A New Hope is always my favorite. The original 1977 Star Wars, that is my jam. It's the first Star Wars I ever watched. That is by far my favorite one, period. This is my second. This is right there. And looking at the original trilogy, I like this. This was right there for me. I loved everything about this movie. Now, granted, I didn't get to see it in theaters when it was released, but you know, it when I finally did get to see it, I fell in love with what happened in this movie.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I had the good fortune of seeing it, you know, in the theater. You know, and here's what dates me, right? I was 14, and this is 40 years later. Do the math. I'm 54. So. Yeah, like you said, if someone hasn't seen this in the last close to half a century, right? 50 years, 40 years, really, I know it is. I don't want to age it too much, but I'm with you. I was thinking about it the other night. And, you know, just now you mentioned, is it, you know, for me, I'm the same as you. A lot of people say Empire Strikes Back. No, Star Wars is my favorite. The original, 1977, saw it 10 times in the movie theater. I haven't seen another movie that many times in the theater. But I was in my head thinking, you know, knowing we were going to record this, is this number 2 or is Empire? I almost felt like it was almost in the order 1, 2, 3. But like you said, there's parts of Return of the Jedi that are just so much more uplifting than Empire Strikes Back, you know. And and fun and so on and so forth. And so I kind of was going back and forth. Oh, I think Empire's number 2. Oh, I think Jedi's number 2 for this reason. So I don't know if I can make a demarcation of which one is number 2. But yeah, like you, Star Wars is number 1. These are both right there, Empire and Return of the Jedi.
Oh, absolutely. It is hard. I mean, because the original trilogy it's the standard for all Star Wars, honestly. I mean, it's what got the ball rolling. It's what got the world spinning for Star Wars fans. So it's hard to rank all 3 of them in any kind of order, because they are all so well done and so well made and so cohesive.
Yeah.
And it just is phenomenal storytelling. And it set a golden precedent of what's to come, and what the golden standard of cinema should be.
Yeah. And what a trilogy. And then everyone's been trying to do it ever since. Yeah, very difficult to do. And it's amazing sometimes when you look at all the behind the scenes stories that it happened, all 3 of them. But we're fortunate to have them and get to do shows like this where we get to reminisce this many years later. I'm thankful that I'm still around to be able to talk about this and talk about it with you, buddy.
Oh, absolutely. I am so thankful we get to do this, because it's just one of those fun things that time gave us the opportunity to do. So let's go ahead and jump into some of our talk. We got a couple things we want to go over. We debated on how we wanted to do this, whether we want to do a breakdown of the movie or what, but there's so many angles you can tackle this from that, and I know other shows have sat there and gone scene by scene breakdowns of the movie and this and that. And, it's all been done before when it comes to this. So we figured we would sit back and just have a fun discussion of the movie. We're going to start off talking about our favorite scenes. We're going to then go talk about our favorite memories of the movie, of seeing the movie. Then, of course, we're going to talk about, you can't talk Star Wars without talking John Williams. So we're going to definitely talk about our favorite tracks from the soundtrack. Then, of course, just some of the additional history stuff that has come out since. May even hit on a couple of the deleted scenes that are out there as well. So let's jump right into this. Let's kick off with our favorite scenes from Return of the Jedi. I know each of us threw a couple of scenes in there that we put as our favorite. So David, why don't you kick us off first? Give us the first scene, the first of your favorite scenes.
Yeah, I this is not easy. There's so many, because I watched it again on Friday night, and just going through and just there's so many that I could pick from. But then I thought, wait a minute, I know, something that blew me away was that one of my favorite scenes is one that was not seen in the movie. And people are like, wait, what? But it was revealed at Star Wars Celebration. I don't think it was 2010. I think it was 2012. Both were in Orlando. But I think, Aaron, you got to correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was during Jon Stewart's interview with George Lucas that they showed this clip. I think. You got to forgive me. I should have gone back and done my homework. But I think it was 2012, not 2010. But again, either one, people will remember this immediately. It's the clip of Luke building his new lightsaber and igniting it. And you see the green, lightsaber light up, and he's inside of kind of like a little cave alcove on Tatooine. I think R2's there, and like C-3PO's keeping watch or something, or maybe both are out there. Just incredible. And I think I have that on the 2011 DVD release, right? That was the big Blu-ray. Forgive me, Blu-ray release of all of them. So yeah, you know what? That might answer it for me. what was it, 2010? Because then they put it on the 2011. That might be the answer. It might have been 2010, my friend. But anyways, I know someone's yelling at the recording. Dave, you can't believe you don't remember this, but I just absolutely love that scene. And then I go back, Aaron, and I think, wait, the first time we see Luke ignited is over the Sarlacc pit when R2, shoots it up in the air to him, and you're like, boom, and then there it is, green. I guess I still wish they would have shown him doing that, building it and so on and so forth. But that is one of my favorite scenes, is seeing Luke working on that and igniting it.
Very cool. Very cool. And what's ironic is that kind of ties into my first favorite scene. Because you mentioned the first time he ignites that saber, and that actually is my favorite scene in the movie. And what I put down here, right there at the beginning, he's on Tatooine. Luke's standing on that plank. He gives Jabba the ultimatum, free us or die. And everybody laughs. And he does his little brow salute to R2, and then does the backflip over the guard and lands. And as R2 shoots the saber out, and as he just grabs that saber and ignites it, you can almost see a smirk on Luke's face, like, you're in trouble now. And at the same time, you can see you can almost hear the guards going, Carabast, and the captain's going, bring me my brown pants. It's just utter chaos opens up at that moment. It was just, to me, it's perfect, because then he just goes and just kicks butt and takes names. I mean, it is just incredible. But just the way he snagged it and ignited it, the look on Luke's face at that moment was just, to me, it was just priceless.
Well, it's probably when they were in the editing process, they're like, you know what? This scene of him building this saber and igniting it in there is cool, but him igniting it and defeating Jabba and his whole crew is even cooler. And so they went with that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. But it worked out so well. So.
Yeah.
All right. So, David, how about I know you got a second one listed here. So what about your second favorite scene?
Oh, well, for me, and it might be the overall favorite scene, even more than that clip of him building his lightsaber, is the celebration in the Ewok village. And of course, when I initially saw it, it was that celebration. I really do like what they added in the special edition, and seeing the celebrations on Coruscant, on Tatooine. Some of those overhead shots, I think Bespin, right? Cloud City. But it was that original Ewok village celebration there with Luke, Han, Leia, Lando, Wedge, all of them. And, of course, seeing the Force ghosts appear. And, of course, I'm 14 years old, and I thought at the time, thinking, this is it, and you mentioned it earlier. There's no more Star Wars coming. George made his trilogy, and he's going to move on and do other things. He said that. And at that time, I was like, man, this is the perfect ending to this trilogy and to Star Wars movies. And this is part of what, for me, starts to bump it up, above Empire. It's so fun, so uplifting, and so hopeful. Dan Z always talks about one of the major aspects of Star Wars that he loves to see is hope. And, it's really there. And to see their faces and their smiles, Luke, and like I said, Han and Lando, seeing Leia smiling, Chewbacca dancing, the Ewoks, it just gives me chills. And even to this day, I love, not like love that ending. I just loved it, man. Still to this day, it kind of breaks my heart, all the bad stuff that happens after with the First Order now, but it still doesn't taint my love of that scene. So yeah, that's probably my favorite scene in the movie. Just, I love that ending.
Very good. For me, the second scene I wrote down Because there's so many fabulous scenes in the movie. But the one scene that no matter what happens always makes me chuckle and grin is, of course, when Luke and Han and the gang are captured by the Ewoks. All because, to quote Han, "Great Chewie, you're thinking with your stomach." And of course they get caught up in that net, and they're all just kind of dangling there, and it's hysterical. And it just gets better from there as R2 cuts the net and they're all falling, and 3PO's like, "It's a very long drop," and all of a sudden they all fall. It was perfect. Then of course they're surrounded by Ewoks, and 3PO, won't exploit. It's against his programming to play a god. I mean, come on. It doesn't get much better than that. I mean, it is a bunch of little furry guys pointing a sharp stick at Harrison Ford. Like, we're friends. He's my friend. Oh my gosh, I loved it. That's one of my other favorite scenes in this movie is, and there's so many other scenes that you could have gotten here that are just so incredible. But these are just a couple of our favorites from the movie. I mean, we could keep going, and I could pick out other scenes like the entire Battle of Endor. I mean, just that dogfight in orbit. I mean, is the land fight, with the Ewoks was cool, but to me that space battle was just mind blowing. I mean, it was, oh my gosh. I mean, it took what they did in A New Hope and gave it steroids and put it loose in the pasture. I mean, it just, with the A-Wings and the B-Wings and all the other ships, you get to see the Y-Wings and the X-Wings. And of course, then you had the TIE Fighters, and you had the new TIE Interceptors, and of course the Super Star Destroyer and the Star Destroyers and all the, oh my gosh. Then you got the Death Star taking pot shots at Imperial Rebel cruisers. I mean, it's just such an intense battle scene. It's so quick and so fast. I love it. Here's the problem with discussing a movie like this that we've all seen hundreds of times. You can mention one part and we could talk on it for 30 minutes and still not be done. It's just such an incredible movie with so much. The original trilogy, especially, you can sit down, and I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't parts of the original trilogy that could have been left out. They're always, any movie, if you sit down and nitpick enough, you'll find something like, okay, you could have cut that. We really didn't need that. But the way these were made, they would flow together so well. I mean, it's just, they have stood the test of time for, well, Return of the Jedi for 40 years, A New Hope for over 40 years now. Same for Empire. So you have the golden standard of cinema, and these movies are still standing the test of time and are still beloved to this day.
Yeah, they really are. No, as you were describing it, there's a bunch of more scenes that I'm thinking about that we could talk about, but it's like you said, in the just for the sake of brevity and just kind of not having a 3-hour long episode. We thought we'd try to keep it to maybe one or two favorite scenes, but there's so many, and I know I want to jump into more, but I know we actually have show notes to try to keep us constrained and on target. Stay on target.
It's a trap.
That's right. It could be a 4-hour trap. Yes.
I tell you, I honestly, I think that is a conservative estimate. If we decided to go through all of our favorite parts of this movie, we'd probably be going like 6 or 7 hours, just discussing it easily. But yeah, so that's, like I said, we only did a couple favorite scenes, like David said. So we're wrap that up with our favorite scenes there. We're going to take a real quick break, and then when we come back, we will continue discussing Return of the Jedi, going into our favorite memories of watching the movie. So hang with us. We'll be right back.
This is Chris Maestro from New York City. Return of the Jedi is one of my favorite movies of all time, but my favorite scene from Star Wars ever is when Luke does his flip right before being thrown into the Sarlacc and grabs the lightsaber from R2. I will always get chills from watching that scene, and I've seen the movie over 200 times.
Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are discussing Return of the Jedi and are having a good discussion here, celebrating the 40th anniversary. We are looking at, now we're going to take a look at our favorite memory of the movie, our favorite memories of the movie. This, of course, can be where we saw it, who we saw it with, circumstances around us seeing it, whatever it may be, our favorite memories of the movie. So since you kicked off the first one, David, I'm going to kick off this one because I actually have, it's hard to pick one favorite memory, just like it was hard to pick, just two favorite scenes. But I've had to narrow it down to two. One is back, the first one is back when I first got to see Return of the Jedi. Growing up overseas, of course, I did not get to see it in theaters, mainly because, I was like almost 3 and still potty training, but, I didn't get to see it. And if I would have, I wouldn't have remembered it. But then being overseas, I didn't get to, after that, didn't get to see anything. And then, of course, the movie was finally released on VHS in 1986. And that is the first time I saw Return of the Jedi. I was able to purchased a VHS copy with the big Fox logo, silver logo at the top. I still remember it to this day. Have it, and I know I had it somewhere. I lost it in one of the many moves I've made. And I regret that to this day that I lost that VHS. But it's out there somewhere. So, but I remember seeing it then for the first time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is amazing. It was, I even made sure I got a second copy because we were going back overseas, and I knew I was going to watch it till it broke. So I had 2 copies of it, and one of them I did watch until it busted. I'll admit that.
I think a lot of people did that till the VHS tape wore out, right, buddy?
Yep. You put it on, also next thing you know, you start like getting little static lines through the video, and you're like, yep, that VHS is almost gone. Yeah. And then they just wear out. Yeah, that was technology back then. So,
go ahead. You just made me think. You had 2, favorite memories, and I had one listed, but you just jarred my memory of a second one, because I have one listed here, but I have a second one. Should I do that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think it piggybacks nicely off yours, because I was like, wait a minute, as you were just saying that, 1986, because I don't know, Aaron, I've talked to you about this, when we've been at cons and so on and so forth, but I don't know that I've really talked about this on any of our recordings. I've talked about my educational background, but I don't know that have I talked about playing high school basketball? I don't know that I have. Maybe a wee bit, maybe a spot.
I think it's been mentioned in passing.
Have I just in passing? Well, this was kind of, I'm really glad you mentioned 1986, because this made me think of 1987. Of course, you're a wee lad, and I was 18 in 1987, and I did have the good fortune of playing on a really exceptional high school basketball team at Elma High School in Elma, Michigan, and we played in the state championship my senior year, and it was an incredible run for us. We worked at it for years and years and years, and we defeated the defending state champs on the way there, Mr. Basketball, Mark Macon, and the whole crew at a high school named Saginaw Buena Vista. So we'd beaten them, and we had won 2 more games, a state quarterfinal, and we won the state semifinal, which were held at the University of Michigan. And the reason I bring that up is because I remember being in Ann Arbor, Michigan in March of 87. It would have been March 27th that night. And the next day, we were going to play in the state championship. And we were all assigned rooms, a teammate and so on. And I remember just being exhausted. And we turned my teammate, one of my teammates, Steve Klink. He's going to be on the Galactic Star Cruiser next month. We were just had gotten back to the hotel room, and I remember turning on the TV, and Return of the Jedi was on. Just kind of something familiar, something comforting. Watching that, and I just remember looking at that. I looked over at Steve and I said, dude, we're playing in the state championship tomorrow. And then just boom, we were both out. I don't remember any more Return of the Jedi that night. We just woke up the next day and played in the state championship there at Chrysler Arena at the University of Michigan. But it was just so fun to see Return of the Jedi that evening. That was good. Perfect little thing to kind of be uplifting and fun. And you just jarred my memory of that. I think I watched 5 minutes of it. Of course, watched it a bunch of times, but it went right to bed, buddy. So there's a fun little memory from 1987 regarding Return of the Jedi.
That is awesome. I love it.
I don't think
love it
on the podcast before. So there you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, my second memory of seeing Return of the Jedi actually is not that old. Actually, it's actually less than a month old. When I finally got to see Return of the Jedi on the big screen, I actually got to go with some friends of mine. Of course, you know them, David. And everybody online's heard that's listened to the show has heard me talk about my best friend Robbie. Me and his brother, we went to see Return of the Jedi in the theater with Robbie's boys, and it was just, oh my gosh. You sit there and it's like, why would you go see a movie in the theater you've seen 100 times already? You can watch it on your 70-inch TV at home with your surround sound, but there's just something different about being in a movie theater watching a Star Wars movie. And when the lights went out and the song kicked in, you get chills the same time. I mean, just every time the hair just stands up on your arms. I mean, it was just, it was perfect. I loved having the opportunity to watch that in the theater.
Yeah. Didn't you post a picture? You did.
I did.
When you were saying, this is where the fun begins?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so glad you were able to do it. I wanted to go do it. My wife even was talking about it. We just didn't work out that we got to see it. And I think it ran through May 4th, and we had friends come in that night. And I was like, doggone it. I did. I really wanted to see it on the big screen again. But fortunately, I had before. But it's a long time ago, buddy. But yeah, I'm glad you did.
Oh, it was well worth it. So much fun to be able to see it on the big screen and enjoy it that way. So I can officially say I've seen all the sequels trilogy in theaters. I have seen episode 2, episode 3, and now Return of the Jedi. So now I just need to go see, I need to catch A New Hope. I need to catch Empires and Phantom Menace on the big screen. If I can do that, I will have seen them all on the big screen.
There you go.
Oh yes, and I've seen Solo and Rogue One on the big screen as well. But those are the 3 left I need to see. So I just need them to put them out in the theaters again, just for me, just so I can go see them, just so I can say I've seen all of them.
That's right. Yeah, they used to do triple bills, of Star Wars Empire. Yeah, Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Well, you want me to jump in and do mine?
Go ahead.
Yeah. This is the one I had originally written down until Aaron jogged my memory. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to share this. But for me, it was standing in line, with all the Star Wars fans on opening night. It really was. It was the first time I'd gone to a Star Wars movie on opening night. With Star Wars, the reason why I remember it wasn't opening night is because I remember sitting there with my parents in Midland, Michigan, and so it must have been right towards the end of May, and all the word was out about Star Wars, and there was a family, and I've said this on the podcast before, who they were sitting right in front of us, and they were so excited they turned around. They're like, "Did you see it?" And my parents and I said, "No, we haven't seen it." And they're like, "Oh, we saw it last night. We're back again tonight." And they didn't spoil anything. They didn't say anything, and we just watched it. And so I know it wasn't opening night. Empire, for some reason, in 1980, I don't remember. I don't think that was. I don't at all think that was opening night. I'm blocking on that. But for this one, Return of the Jedi opening night, and I just remember, the energy in the crowd. I was with 2 of my buddies, Joel Carr and Chris Ortiz, and went to it and got in line, and there was so much energy in the crowd, so much anticipation. Kind of like what you said, nothing like seeing it in a theater as a communal experience, kind of like Star Wars Celebration, I loved watching the live stream, but there's nothing like being there, like being on the show floor with you and walking around like in 2017 and getting our pictures with Felicity Jones and Alan Tudyk and stuff, of course with Dan Z and Corey Club and all that, that just, there's just something about being there live and the energy. But for me, it was, it was my first time ever, being at an opening night. I started thinking about it. I'm like, you know what? I went opening night in 1999 to episode 1. I remember standing in that line 16 years later. But those were the 2 I did. Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace opening nights. So
very cool. Very cool. Those are, definitely that would have been, I can only imagine the opportunity that would have been, because, I've been to a couple of, theaters to watch some Star Wars movies, but to have been there for the original release of Return of the Jedi would have just been, I would have loved that.
Yeah. There was no online ticket buying. In fact, I remember being in line and you're kind of looking, you're like, ooh, are we going to get in? You're trying to count it out a little bit, Unlike now, you can look, you can see what seats are taken. And, we want to be up higher or lower. Do you want to be over there? Do you want to split up? You could purchase stuff beforehand. It's just, you stood in line, man. You stood in line and it was just, there's no, like I said, no phones, no computers, cell phones, I should say. Yeah. No computers. Just got in line and just got excited, man. Yep. That was it. But worked out, got in and saw that first show. And again, the nice thing about going opening night, buddy, is nobody can spoil it.
Yeah, that's true. It definitely was a different time. Now we got it so simple where we can just go on the phone, order our tickets and go. Yeah, you don't have to worry about standing in line and wondering if you're actually going to make it in before it sells out. So
that's right.
I think the closest I will have ever gotten to that was going to Star Wars weekends and hoping to get an autograph ticket. So
yes.
The closest experience you could have gotten to that. So
yeah.
All right. So of course, we cannot talk about a Star Wars movie without talking about John Williams. It's just not possible. I believe it was it was David Collins who said it best, that the music of Star Wars is the breath of Star Wars. I mean, you just cannot have Star Wars without the music. And John Williams, we have definitely have John Williams to thank for that, because he created masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece for each movie, from A New Hope all the way through Rise of Skywalker. I mean, regardless of what you think of the sequels, you got to admit John Williams, he took no prisoners when it came to his soundtracks. I mean, he killed it, as he always does. But looking at Return of the Jedi, I mean, there's a lot of music in there, a lot of themes that are just incredible. So I figured we would go ahead as well and tackle our favorite tracks from the soundtrack of Return of the Jedi. And, you know, I live for the movie soundtracks. So picking one is impossible for me. So I picked two.
Oh, shocker, Aaron. Shocker.
Do you see a pattern in this show? You know, I've picked two on everything so far. And no, that is not a prediction of what is to come for the dad joke of the week. There is only one.
Oh,
I did not pick two.
there is a God in heaven. Wait, did I say that out loud? Okay.
Oh, shot through the heart. Oh, a little bit of
I had to tease you. Plus tease you about, what is your favorite? And then, you got to pick your favorite. And then Aaron picks two. There's not a favorite. There's like two of everything. So no, we knew we were going to have a lot of fun with this,
Well, always two there are, a master and apprentice.
Well said. Well played.
Let's get going here with our favorite soundtracks. For me, absolutely the best track from the Return of the Jedi soundtrack is actually the Luke and Leia theme.
Yeah.
This is the theme that was played when they're on Endor in the village, and they just got accepted to, they are now part of the tribe. And Luke slips out, and Leia sees him, and she kind of slips out and follows him, and they have that big discussion on the bridge when he's like, my force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Don't you know? Type of moment. And that soft interlude music right there is just, oh my gosh, it is. If you ever just want to lay back and relax, turn that track on. It is the most peaceful, the most relaxing, the most moving piece that, oh my gosh, it is. I just cannot say enough about what he did on that piece, because it just puts you in a different mood. I mean, we're dealing with a lot of emotions in this scene, with Luke opening up and revealing to Leia that, hey, Vader's my dad, but you're also my sister, which makes Vader your dad. So Leia's getting the good old right left punch there, and so there's a lot of emotion in this scene, but the music is just so tranquil and so.
You want to go listen to it right now? Yeah.
I got it queued up, ready to go. As soon as we're done, I'm hitting play. I just literally, I'm going to have it on repeat while I'm editing the show. So. Yeah.
Well, when you mentioned this, because we put the show notes together, and you said, hey, we should do, favorite, track from the soundtrack. And I absolutely love that you said that, because, in watching Return of the Jedi again for the umpteenth time on Friday night, I was got to the credits, and and I was listening, and I'm like, yeah, that's, I love it. And what it is, in fact, tonight I put it in there, Return of the Jedi soundtrack, or, tracks, and I saw the list of them. I'm like, wait a minute, I think it's that. And I hit it, and then it played it for me, and it's Parade of the Ewoks. And people might think, what? I mean, because I love, when Aaron mentioned that Luke and Leia theme, and listening to that while they were speaking, love it. But let me explain this why. I loved it in the movie, upbeat, fun, chipper, But I'll tell you what, I fell in love with it even more because of Star Wars Weekends. And I don't know if you remember this, Aaron, but they always seem to have that playing as you walk through Hollywood studios. I remember it playing, going to get autographs from Jeremy Bullock and, Steve Bloom and Tia Sircar and, all these different, Star Wars actors and actresses. And of course, you've gotten plenty of those senior pictures there, getting autographs from all these people. I remember going to Obi-Wan and Beyond. That was James Arnold Taylor's show. I think he, of course, modified it. It's called Talking to Myself now when he does the show, but he modified it. It's called Obi-Wan and Beyond there at Star Wars Weekends. Just anywhere you walk, just this fun, upbeat music. And it was this. And just, it brings back such great memories of the movie, but also, and all of you have listened to us for a while, have talked about how special Star Wars Weekends is to Aaron and I. We met there. Of course, we were in line very early one morning, in line for the very thing you mentioned a few minutes ago, which was wristbands to get, autographs. You had to get there very early to get those for various Star Wars actors. Mm-hmm. And, all the movies we have, all the memories we have there, and Aaron and I have shared those, from meeting celebrities to, like I said, the autographs, to the shows, to everything, and meeting friends, even Aaron covering it for Coffee with Kenobi and so forth. But just like the music too, just walking through the park and hearing that, I loved it. It was just great. And, I'm walking through there, and, of course, my brain is, all the nostalgia from 1983, and so that's why I just, when Aaron asked it, I'm like, wait, I know which one I want to list. And that's not this. I mean, like Aaron's doing, he's, picking 5 of them that he likes now. He's picking 2, but there's a lot of these themes that I really enjoy. But I thought I would throw that one out there and kind of give you some reasoning behind it. So yeah, Parade of the Ewoks, a lot of fun, really, really good.
Very good, very good. And while you were sitting here talking, I picked 2 more tracks to add to my list. But I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but I do have the second one here, but which I'm going to go into. But the second one for me, you have to go to the final battle. You have to go to that final fight between Vader and Luke there on the Death Star. And the whole fight has great music, but the one scene in particular, when Luke is in hiding and Vader's just walking around trying to coax him out, and this and that, Obi-Wan has failed, this and that. He was right. He was right to hide it from me, but now his failure is complete. Oh, your father's betrayal. Oh, your sister. If you won't join me, maybe your sister. Oh, yes, you got a sister. She'll join me. Of course, at that point, you hear Luke yell no, and he comes out swinging with everything he's got. And then that music kicks up, and you have that choir kick in. That, oh my gosh. I get chills just even trying to duplicate it. But that is just oh my gosh, that is a phenomenal piece of music right there, because it goes right into that final scene with the Emperor and the electroshock therapy that, the Emperor's famous for giving himself. Well, he gives it to himself every time. Every time he uses the little electric shock therapy in the third movies, he ends up, getting hurt.
Yes.
Look at it. Revenge of the Sith. He uses it, tries to use it on Mace Windu. He deforms his face. This one, he uses it. Vader grabs him. He ends up electrocuting himself and Vader, and he gets thrown down the pit and survives. Don't get me started on that one. How he falls down a pit, survives the fall and the explosion. No, not going there. Then of course, same thing in Rise of Skywalker. He's using the force electricity, and she's got the lightsabers crossed and reflects it back in his face, and it eats him up this time.
Yeah.
And then come episode 12, he'll come back to life again. But, electricity apparently doesn't kill him. It does, but it doesn't. Does, but it doesn't. It's like, why don't you just stay dead? Caramast. That was a squirrel. Actually, it was more like porg. Anyway.
Stay on target.
It's a trap. Oh my Lord.
Perfect
But,
for this episode, yes.
but yes, that piece there with that final surge of the lightsaber battle was just so wonderful and so intense, and it told the story by itself, just of the intensity and the desperation of the fight at that point. And you could tell it was reaching its crescendo. It was reaching its end just by that music. And I absolutely loved it.
No, I agree with you, buddy. When I saw that you listed it, I'm like, yep, I love both the ones you said. There's no, it's hard to, like we said, how do you argue against John Williams? I think that's a losing cause.
No, absolutely. You can't. You can't discuss a Star Wars movie without discussing John Williams. It's just as simple as that. So,
Sure.
All right. Well, when we are going to take another quick break here, when we return, David wants to go over some really cool articles that have recently been released talking about Return of the Jedi. And of course, we will continue from there. So hang with us. We will be right back.
Hi, David and Aaron. It's Mary Perdue. So glad to share my thoughts of my favorite Star Wars movie, Return of the Jedi, with you. I had just graduated from college a couple of weeks prior to Return of the Jedi being in the theaters, and on opening day, I saw Jedi 3 times. Once early in the morning at the earliest showing by myself, later in the afternoon with my fiancé, and then later on that evening I went back to the theater to see it for a 3rd time with my brother, each time the movie getting better and better. The trilogy actually spanned my high school and college years, so it really felt like the end of my childhood and the beginning of my adulthood as I sat there and watched Return of the Jedi. We had so many questions about Han, Luke, and Darth Vader from the previous 3 years since Empire, so this was an exciting and a brand new mythology for our generation. Since then, I was able to share my love of the original trilogy, and especially this movie, with a special nephew when the remastered movies were released in theaters before the prequels were released. After that, during a Disney Star Wars Day at Sea cruise, the first 2 trilogies were shown on the big screen continuously throughout that 7-day cruise, as well as the just released The Force Awakens. It was magnificent to be able to watch all of the first 6 movies on the big screen with my son Chaz, including my favorite movie, Return of the Jedi. Of course, Chaz and I had to go back to the theater over May the 4th weekend this year to enjoy it once again on the big screen. David and Aaron, thank you so much for letting me share my thoughts about Return of the Jedi, my favorite movie, on your awesome podcast. May the Force be with you always.
Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We are continuing our discussion of Return of the Jedi, the 40th anniversary. So we've discussed our favorite scenes. We've discussed our favorite memories, our favorite John Williams tracks from the movie. So let's go into some of the bonus stuff. David, tell us about the articles you've read recently in Star Wars Insider that are discussing Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, when you and I started talking about doing a special Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary episode on Star Wars reactions here, started thinking about different things that we could do and talk about. And as you mentioned at the beginning, people have talked about, virtually everything related to, the original Star Wars movies. But, I do subscribe to Star Wars Insider, and in Insider issue number 217 and 218, they each had an article commemorating, the 40th anniversary. The one in issue 217 is an article called Return of the Jedi, The End of the Beginning, and it's by Jay Stobie. And I was reading it and I thought, well, let me throw a little bit of this in here, and I think Aaron would like it and our listeners would like it, and maybe some of our listeners have already read it, but there's a lot in it. But I just wanted to pick out just a couple fun things. One was that in this article by Jay Stobie, he really highlights themes and plot points that led to similar themes and plot points in the prequels, the sequels, the Clone Wars, the Book of Boba Fett, and the Mandalorian. And I, like I said, I think he did a really nice job of explaining it. I thought I'd give one example. He was talking a bit about how, Din Djarin and Boba Fett helped shape the post Return of the Jedi landscape. And he continued on and talked about how Bo-Katan, who we saw in The Mandalorian, her recommendation that Din find Ahsoka Tano, and how that helped propel Grogu to be Luke's first student. And this fulfills Yoda's request to Luke to pass on what he had learned. And so that's just one example. He does go on and talk about, just kind of like the Emperor and how we see him in the prequels. We see him, you mentioned it, in the not just the prequels, but the sequels there at the very end. And Rey crosses her lightsabers and battles him there. But there's just a lot of really great examples of how Return of the Jedi really wasn't the end. And he really shows you how off of that, it really blossoms into all these other movies and animated shows and so on. So really kind of cool article there. If someone wants to read it, jump on and get Star Wars Insider, but it's called Return of the Jedi, The End of the Beginning by Jay Stobie. The other one was from the newest issue of Star Wars Insider. It's number 218. In there, it's an article it's called Rewind of the Jedi, and it's by James Floyd. And, he's done a lot of writing for StarWars.com and of course, Star Wars Insider. And I've seen a lot of his stuff. I remember seeing him at Star Wars Celebration in 2017, just before you and I got together to start doing stuff. So I remember seeing him there. So anyways, he has a fun article too, Aaron, where he looks at 10 Return of the Jedi overlooked, blinking you'll miss it moments. And I wanted to read all 10 on the episode, but why do that? Let's just do a couple fun ones. I picked 2 of the 10, and they're actually kind of connected. Now, I don't know if people remember Prune Face. Okay. Now, this is a deep cut, right, buddy?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is a deep cut. And it's funny because when I was watching Return of the Jedi again on Friday night, watching through it, of course, listening to all the music that you and I just talked about, and then they're in the briefing room with Mon Mothma, and they show everyone's sitting in there, and you can see all our heroes and all that. And I look, and I'm like, who are those three guys? I'm like, wait a minute, and then I look at the article, and it's actually, that his, the original name that people called the character was Pruneface, but he was named Ora Marco by Pablo Hidalgo in 1995, I think, in a what does it say in the article, in one of those books that he developed, one of those guidebooks and stuff. So he's named that, but he appears with two other Drussellians in the briefing room on Home One. That's where you see him setting. Now, what's kind of funny is they show another clip, and I mentioned the one of my favorite scenes in Return of the Jedi is the celebration at the end. And I didn't look to see if he had always been in there or if he was put in. I'm talking Pruneface again, but he shows up in the Ewok Village celebration. And in Star Wars Insider, it shows a picture of where he is. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I just haven't had time. I got to go back and watch the end celebration again and then sit there and say, wait, was that in the original one? Because obviously he's in, him and the two other Drussellians are in the briefing room, but I don't ever remember seeing him in the Ewok celebration, even before the special editions. I'm like, I wonder if George Lucas wanted to pop him in there to kind of bring a consistency from, hey, here's some of the people in the briefing room, on Admiral Akbar's Home One, and then seeing him there. But I don't know. Do you remember any of this? Did you see any of this? This is a really blink and you'll miss it moments.
Well, it definitely is a blink and you'll miss it moment. No, I can't say that I have. I'll have to go back and rewatch it now, which, I have no problem doing because I love rewatching this movie. And I'll have to keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, look, everybody for Pruneface in the Ewok celebration at the end. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm glad you mentioned these articles because I actually read an article today and I didn't even have time to put it in the notes yet, but I wanted to mention it. On StarWars.com, they've been doing a whole series lately called Jedi at 40. Talk about the 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi. And there was an article released on the 22nd of May by Amy Rochelle talking about all of the deleted scenes that from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And all of these deleted scenes, of course, are now available on Disney Plus now. If you go to the movie, go to extras, you can watch all of these deleted scenes that they've got listed here, which actually includes your lightsaber building scene.
Yeah.
Which is in there. But the one that I saw that I had not seen before, there are actually two, actually three that I had not seen before. One was just called, one of them was called the Battle of Endor, the Lost Rebels. And it basically is just a lot of recordings of a bunch of different actors sitting in cockpits with helmets, doing dialogue for the dogfight, which was interesting.
I have watched that. I have seen that. Yes.
Okay. But the two that really jumped out to me that I really enjoyed, one was they actually are calling it Jared's Conflict. And of course, Jared is the Moff who's in charge of the second Death Star, who's kind of intimidated there by Vader. But apparently he had a lot more expanded role originally before it was kind of edited down for the final movie. But these scenes were incredible, including him being force choked by Vader when he denies Vader access to the Emperor. Who denies Vader access to the Emperor and lives to tell about it?
Yeah.
I mean, just the gall of this guy. It's definitely why he's a Moff then, I guess. But man, the only person I think who could have gotten away with that would have been Tarkin. But this guy obviously has, you know, some of Tarkin's moxie in him to stand up to Vader the way he did at that moment. Then, of course, there's a scene where he's almost like in a command center, and he gets a call from the Emperor saying, and this blew me away, with the Emperor telling Jared that if the rebels succeed in bringing down the shield generator, to turn the Death Star on Endor.
Oh, wow. I was trying to remember that scene. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, that right there is that scene in and of itself is the first real glimpse to me of an ultimate plan post Empire, Return of the Jedi, right there. I mean, you always hear about what do they call it in the books? Operation
Cinder.
Cinder. That's right, Operation Cinder. This is Operation Cinder level right here, because not only is he taking out the rebels on the planet, but he's taking out a whole bunch of Imperial forces at that time as well. If he had done that, apparently. There and the scene, of course, shows Jared and some Imperial officers following that order too.
Yeah,
I mean, I just can't imagine.
Well, they blew up Alderaan, and that was Tarkin, but of course the Emperor's in the background, so he doesn't have a problem with blowing up planets.
Obviously not.
No.
The second deleted scene that I enjoyed a lot was the raid on the bunkers. All the extra footage from the raid on the bunker, where basically you have Han and the commandos basically going hallway to hallway, fighting their way to the actual control center, where they end up planting the explosives. But to me, it was just it definitely was good to cut. It probably would have made it just a little bit longer. It would have been fun to see, but not necessary. But it added some extra footage from when the Imperials come in and capture them. And that one officer's like, rebel scum. And Han just kind of puts his hand on his hips and goes, scum? Like, oh my gosh. He's being captured. His friends are dying in space. He's being captured by the Imperials, and he's worried about being called scum.
Yeah.
It's so Han.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, those clips of showing them infiltrating that bunker, there's no music.
No music.
Yeah, and it's kind of like just some special effects, pop, right?
Yeah. There's no you have some of the practical effects, like the little pop explosions with a little bit of fire where the blaster would have hit, but you don't see the beams or anything. There's no music. The dialogue is very muted. You could hear it, but you got to listen, because obviously it wasn't being shot for the dialogue at that time. It was shot for there would had to have been some voiceover or better audio that they just didn't release. But I mean, yeah, it was very simple footage.
Yeah. And I think I remember seeing all that again in the 2011 Blu-ray release. Those Blu-rays have like over 40 hours of extra material. It took me a long time to get through it, but yeah, getting to see some of that stuff was really cool. But yeah, now they've got, like you said, a lot of it on Disney Plus under the extras under each movie. Yeah.
Awesome. So definitely check those out. You can check out those articles. In the two articles David mentioned, of course, were in Star Wars Insider 217 and 218, and of course the Jedi at 40, all through. It's all over the Star Wars website, starwars.com. Check that out, and you will not regret it at all. All right, so moving on, David. I know you have been posting stuff throughout the day today for Return of the Jedi's anniversary. tell us about some of your posts that you've been sharing to celebrate Return of the Jedi.
Well, you just said people will not be disappointed if they go to StarWars.com and read those Jedi at 40. Completely agree with you. Something else they will not be disappointed with is my Instagram on May 25th. I told you that I'd been wanting to do this, and I needed to get some time, and I did get it together, and I pulled out a Return of the Jedi standee from 1983. I remember getting this from a movie theater in Midland, Michigan. I grew up in Elma. Midland's about 45 minutes away. It's where my parents were met and got married and all that stuff. So spent a lot of time in Midland, Michigan. And I remember, it's kind of funny. I went to see Guardians of the Galaxy here recently in the month of May of 2023. And they had some big standees out there for the Transformers Rise of the Beast that's going to be coming out and so on and so forth. And this is kind of a similar thing. It's this really cool standee. And so and again, in talking to you, Aaron, and we're talking about celebrating the 40th anniversary, I'm like, you know what? I am going to get out that standee because that thing is 40 years old now. And so what I thought I would do is not just get it out and take a picture of it, and I posted it today, but also I said, well, why don't I get out some of my original Return of the Jedi toys? And so I've got a picture of the Rancor on top of that standee, that poster. That is an original Rancor. That's not all the new ones that they've made here over the years. That's an original Rancor. Speeder bike. I had hit the button on it and it falls apart. When you hear old Star Wars fans kind of talk about older, I should say. Sorry. Forgive me. Just love me, Star Wars fans. When you hit the button on the back, that speeder bike falls apart. And I actually did it, and I was like, oh no, I'm like, because it's so old, but I put it right back together. It fit really nice, but I took a picture of it on the standee. And one other thing is the skiff. It's not Jabba's sail barge, but it's a skiff. Of course, going back to what Aaron mentioned, one of his favorite scenes is Luke doing the flip off the plank and all that. It's funny. I was kind of playing around with the skiff, and it has a little lever. I almost needed to do like a little video, Aaron. Maybe I'll do that in time. But it shows that plank will come out a little bit, and you can put an action figure on it because it's got the little pegs. There's another little part of the skiff where you hit a button and this thing pops up. It's almost like something that would allow you to knock Boba Fett over, like when Han says to Chewie, Boba Fett, where? Bam, and hits him. And you could hit that and really knock Boba Fett over the side into the well, of course, he goes flying over into the sail barge and then into the Sarlacc pit. But it's a neat little toy. And, obviously not as big as the sail barge, but I just thought I would post the pictures. I keep, saying that I want to do a better job of posting on Instagram, and this 40th anniversary, Aaron gave me a perfect excuse to put some pictures up on my Instagram. So if people want to see them, they won't be disappointed, buddy. So check them out.
Very cool.
David Motters. There it is. That's simply it. There's my Instagram.
There you go. So check it out there on David's Instagram. Check out those articles. We're wrapping up our discussion here of Return of the Jedi. Before we do, though, we're going to take one more break, and we will be right back.
Howdy, Aaron and David. It's your listener buddy, RFB. Had Star Wars Reactions start my Saturday morning pod playlist listening, where yuns are recapping and reviewing the first 3 episodes of Volume 2. And thank you for correcting me, Aaron, because I've been saying seasons 2. It's not a season, it's a volume. See, this is what my podcast friends do. Help keep me in mind. Also glad to hear that it sounds like Volume 2's taken to Aaron a bit better, where Volume 1 didn't seem to so much. My thoughts on is they each, even sort of with Volume 1 and now with what we get, to me, every Star Wars animation, starting with the Faithful Wookiee from the holiday special, to Clone Wars, to Rebels, to even Bad Batch, some of the shorts on the Star Wars YouTube Kids channel called Blips, and Forces of Destiny. Every Star Wars animation has a different look apart from all the others, even Resistance, which I love. And just the stories in there, even if they don't fit into the Star Wars canon, and they ain't gotta, are just fantastic. Somebody else's version of what Star Wars is to them and how they put it together and then share it with us. Because if you know me, I'm about one thing. Tell me a Star Wars story. So, looking forward to the next 3. I like how you are breaking this up into 3s, because there's a few other pod friends that are doing the very same. And it's a lot of fun. They're having fun with it, so are you. Looking forward to listening to what you think about the next 3. And then the 3 after that. And until then, may the Force be with you both, friends. See you on the radio.
Welcome back, everybody. Aaron and David here. We're wrapping up our Return of the Jedi discussion today. And it has been a fabulous discussion. So let's just, I want to close things out here with just some final thoughts on the movie. Some basically closing thoughts of Return of the Jedi. So basically, for me, final reactions, final thoughts, this was just a fabulous movie. It has definitely stood the test of time well, very well. It is a fabulous movie. The effects have stood the test of time. The Williams soundtrack will stand the test of time forever, for sure. The quintessential story of redemption that just is totally wrapped up in this movie with Luke saving his father is just the core of the Star Wars saga, and it just, to me, is so excellently portrayed in this movie, and it brought to its finality. So I just really have enjoyed being able to watch this movie all these years, and look forward to watching it for many years to come. David, any final thoughts you have about Return of the Jedi?
Well, there's so many, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about more and more things again that we could talk about. But just going through this tonight and thinking about the memories of being in line for this. I was fortunate enough to be able to do it. I was alive at the time and could go and just really enjoyed it. I feel so fortunate to have seen it there opening night. And telling you the story about seeing it in March of 1987, and what a special place it plays there, and my memories of my high school basketball career and all the wonderful memories those brings. And there's Star Wars as another part of it. But then, something I was thinking about as you were talking, this really did wrap it up. And I remember just loving it. It just put this perfect bow on it. And, Aaron mentioned a few minutes ago this idea of, the don't get Aaron or myself started with it, the Emperor falling down the shaft and, dying and electrocuted, and then the Death Star 2 blows up. And, but he obviously, what am I saying? Obviously, later on, he transferred his essence over into a clone, and then we move into, the rise of Skywalker. But at the time, it was great. Something that I was thinking about as Aaron was talking is I'm like, this introduced, Ward Davis to the Star Wars universe, and he became such a great part of Star Wars, still is. He's been in so many different Star Wars movies and things like that. enjoyed him at Star Wars weekends and seeing him up close and personal. That was really cool. Aaron and I didn't even talk tonight about the original title of this movie, Revenge of the Jedi, and how George Lucas changed it. Gosh, I wish I had some of that memory. I didn't have any of that, Aaron. I don't really have anything with Revenge of the Jedi on it, but some of that stuff was made, created, and is pretty neat stuff to have at this time. But I love that Lucas changed the name to Return of the Jedi because, he knew, wait, that's not consistent with what a Jedi would do, is revenge. There's so many other moments. Frank Oz as Yoda and talking to Luke and revealing that he is Luke's father, and how do you deal with this and going forward, and becoming a Jedi, has to face him one more time. But just loved so much of this movie, all the movie, and like Aaron said, it's not perfect. It's not a perfect movie. No movie is, but it was so much fun. It ended on such a high note with hope and optimism and fun and laughter. And I loved seeing my heroes that way. And it's burned into my mind. And I guess maybe I'll just leave it with, seeing Luke, Han, Leia, Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, Warwick Davis as Wicket, celebrating Wedge, obviously he's there. And of course the Force Ghosts of Anakin and Obi-Wan and Yoda. I mean, I loved it then, and I'll tell you, today, in a world that's fallen apart and negative and cynical, I love that end scene more than ever. So fun, uplifting ending, and a fun, uplifting, exciting Star Wars movie. And so I'm just so glad I was able to talk with you about it tonight, buddy. Just awesome fun.
Very cool. Very cool. It definitely has been a blast talking with you, and it's been a blast listening to some of our listeners as well. We definitely want to send a shout out to Chris Maestro, to Mary Perdue, and RuralFarmBoy for sending in their thoughts and sharing their memories of Return of the Jedi. You've heard them throughout the episode. So thank you guys and ladies for sharing those thoughts. We definitely appreciate y'all sending in those clips, and we'll have more opportunities for everybody to share as well in the future. So don't hesitate to share your thoughts when you can. So David, if somebody wants to talk Return of the Jedi or just Star Wars in general with you, brother, how would they go about doing that?
Absolutely. Two places. One is Twitter. It is at David_Modders, Modders. And the other is, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, Instagram. Check it out. And I don't post a ton, but when I do, it's cool stuff, man, like Return of the Jedi toys from 40 years ago.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, of course, if you do want to talk Star Wars with me, the best place to do that is on Twitter at TAHarris121079. You can hit me up there anytime, anywhere. And of course, make sure you're following the show on all of our social media at SW Reactions Pod on Facebook and Twitter, at SW Reactions on Instagram, Pinterest, and all of our show notes there on Tumblr. And you can always email us anytime, swreactions@gmail.com as well. Hit us up. Let us know what you thought about Return of the Jedi, about the anniversary, or about anything in particular. So that is how to go about doing that. You can also go there and let us know what you think about this week's Dad Joke of the Week.
And it was going so well with this 40th anniversary review. So, all right.
I know, but we can't end the show without a Dad Joke of the Week, my friend.
I know, it's true.
No matter how bad they are, and this one's pretty bad.
Jeez. Oh, lay it on me, man. Lay it on me here.
All right. Are you ready, David?
I'm ready.
All right. Why does the Emperor hate it when Luke Skywalker files his taxes?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. Why does the Emperor hate it when Luke files his taxes?
Because he usually has to pay the return to the Jedi.
Oh my. That so that's good. It's perfect for tonight.
I searched high and low for that one, my friend.
Oh, well done. I have to say that was well done, my friend.
Perfect. David, buddy, this has been a blast.
Oh, I loved it. Loved recording this episode, man. So many fun memories.
Absolutely. Definitely been a blast. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. Y'all are incredible. Y'all are awesome. We appreciate each and every one of y'all so much. Y'all are the best. Y'all are greatest. We love y'all. We're praying for y'all. If you're in the Orlando area, coming up, like we said, on June 11th, we'll be hanging out with Dan Z and the Coffee with Kenobi meet up there at Disney Springs. So come see us then. But till then, be cool, be nice, change the world for the better, but just by being nice to somebody. Remember, this is your place for elegant discussion for a more civilized age.
If you'd like to share your thoughts, you can email us at show@starwarsreactions.com for our show notes and the latest news from the Star Wars universe. Visit our website at www.starwarsreactions.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWReactionsPod or on Facebook at Star Wars Reactions. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on iTunes. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or by Lucasfilm Limited. It's intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars. All names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and the respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Star Wars Reactions unless otherwise indicated. Star Wars Reactions. Elegant discussion for a more civilized age.